Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Barracuda Championship full show. That's right, initial research, data dive, and DFS tactics all wrapped up somewhat neatly, hopefully neatly, into what's hopefully an hour-long show. So we have a lot to get into. Let's get through the intro, shall we? A reminder that the Open Championship DFS Tactics show will happen tomorrow evening at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight. It is a great opportunity to ask your last-minute questions, get the up-to-the-second weather forecast, projected ownerships, get a feel for where the chalk is, and determine who your pivots are going to be, who you need to fade. So hopefully you will consider joining me at 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight tomorrow for the Open Championship. But we are here for the Barracuda, an alternate field event similar to the Barbasol from last week, in which I had quite a bit of success. All four of my win wagers were in the top 20. Didn't have Vincent Norman. He would have been the fifth wager I make. So much for, cutting off at number 4 or whatever. But a successful week last week at the Barbasol, and we're going to try to duplicate that this week at the Barracuda. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from FantasyNational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler and a much better golf DFS player. Go check them out. It is simply well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my Twitter and Instagram, where I posted some research around the past 10 winners of the Open Championship to social media yesterday. So if you'd like to see the summary of that research, give me a follow over at your preferred social media site, Twitter or Instagram, including the players that qualify under that set of criteria from the previous 10 winners of the Open Championship. Twitter is also where I place my PGA betting cards every week, and that'll be no different. That will be out tomorrow after the DFS Tactics show for the Open Championship and the Barracuda Championship. So if you would like to see the weekly wagers that I make with my own money, then give me a follow over at Twitter. And then Twitter, lastly, is where I put my baseball content. It's very hit and miss at the moment as I'm very busy during the summer. But when I get into baseball content more regularly, it'll be on Twitter. So if you would like to see quick hitting baseball content, then give me a follow over there as well. Gabe's Twitter is in the description as well. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. I highly suggest you give him a follow and subscribe to his article. If you subscribe to his article over on Substack, you'll be able to join us on Wednesday evenings for his DFS chat. We do that every Wednesday. It's been going for about a couple of months now. We've been working pretty closely together. If you were here for last night's show, it is still up in the air as he and his family have plans for the evening. He's going to try to make it back. But on a normal Wednesday evening, if you are a member and subscriber to his article called The Fringe, you will be able to join us over in his Substack chat for even more DFS talk. So highly consider, and I highly recommend you go give Gabe a follow and support his article as well. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat is open. How have you made any wagers for the Barracuda? How much do you know of the course, Tahoe Mountain Club, Old Greenwood? How much do you know of the field? All that good stuff. We're going to try to duplicate our success that we had last week at the alternate field event in Kentucky, and we're going to go across the country to California. So let's do the entire full week of shows in one night for the Barracuda Championship. And we're going to start with the GCSAA tournament fact sheet for the Barracuda Championship. We are at Tahoe Mountain Club, also known as Old Greenwood, in Truckee, California. Old Greenwood is a par 71. It measures 7,480 yards. I'm going to tell you right now that it does not play nearly that long, as the course sits at 6,000 feet above sea level. So if you're familiar with baseball, the Coors Field effect, it travels further. Certainly the same here at Truckee, California. They are sitting at 6,000 square feet above sea level. So this yardage, while it is 7,480, it's a lot like Kapalua in a sense, in that the course doesn't play that long at all. So even though by raw number yardage we would look at long courses, we're not going to be doing that tonight for Tahoe Mountain Club, as it doesn't play that long. You see the stimp is at 11. I'm not going to do anything with the green speeds, and that is because we are on another surface of bent grass and Poa annua. And bent and Poa annua has been used a little bit recently. Let's see, it was at the Canadian Open at Oakdale, the Rocket Mortgage at the Travelers at TPC River Highlands. So it's been seen recently. We'll definitely be able to gather some putting metrics for the players in the field this week. Another interesting note of Tahoe Mountain Club is that it is a Jack Nicklaus design, so we will be able to use a little bit of architect filter in Fantasy National tonight as well. So two very big takeaways from the beginning there. We're going to be on bent and Poa annua greens, Jack Nicklaus design. For the course, these greens are pretty small, 5,300 square feet, but there is a lot of fairway, 32 acres of fairway. If you recall from last night's Open Championship Data Dive show, there was only 22 acres of fairway at the Open Championship this year. So a lot more fairway here at Tahoe Mountain Club, a lot more rough. 6 holes with water in play at Tahoe Mountain Club. We talked about the bent grass and Poa annua. Rough is Kentucky bluegrass, and it's maintained at a pretty medium length at 2.5. So the rough is not very penal, not very difficult to play out of. Now, the interesting thing about the Barracuda, if you are not familiar, this is not a stroke play event. This is what is called a modified Stableford format, in the sense that a golfer will accrue points based on their performance. So unlike every other aspect of golf where you want the lowest score, here you're wanting to get the highest score, the most points, as birdies are positive points, bogeys are negative points. So a very, very unique format that is played once a year on the PGA Tour at the Barracuda Championship. But there's a look at Tahoe Mountain Club from a GCSIA tournament fact sheet standpoint. The biggest takeaways: pretty small greens. We are on bent and Poa annua, so the courses that have that on the PGA Tour, Silverado, which is not honestly too far from here, the host of the Fortinet, the TPC River Highlands, host of the Travelers, Detroit Golf Club, host of the Rocket Mortgage, and then Jack Nicklaus design. So those are the big takeaways here for Tahoe Mountain Club. We're going to exit out before we go to Fantasy National, just because we are trying to squeeze everything in the week into one show. This is the wind finder forecast for Truckee, California as of right now, and of course this will update. And if you are deciding to make any wagers on the Barracuda, if you are deciding to play in any of the DFS contests, make sure that this forecast does not change all that much by the time you submit your lineups. But it looks pretty darn even. I do believe we'll have Thursday's super forecast. Yeah. So very little wind. It does pick up in the afternoon, but that's to be expected. And it looks the same for Friday as well. So I don't see an AM, PM favor at all. Looks pretty similar. The wind could pick up a little bit on the weekend, especially if this wind comes into Sunday, that is forecast for Monday. If that comes in, earlier into the weekend, that could affect some things. But right now, I don't see much regarding wind and it affecting the tournament that much, and certainly not an AM PM favor or PM AM favor. No favorable draw. Just a pretty standard, straight up tournament here, with the exception of the modified Stableford scoring. So there's a look at Wind Finder for Truckee, California. We'll now move to Fantasy National, and some of the challenge with the Barracuda is that since it is a modified Stableford format, we don't collect stats for it, as this is a significantly different style of play. Everything about the modified Stableford format says go for it. You can afford to take a bogey, maybe even a double bogey, if you get a bunch of birdies. So while I am on that subject of scoring, the modified Stableford format goes as such. If you are to get an albatross, I call it an albatross, double eagle, however you phrase it for your own liking, that is 8 points. An eagle is 5. Birdie is 2. Par is 0. Bogey is -1. Double bogey or more is -3. So the worst a golfer can take is -3 points on a hole. So there really is no disincentive to not just go for it. If double bogey is the worst score you can take, you can be putting for your double bogey. If you miss, or if you're putting for your bogey and you miss, you pick up. It doesn't matter. You cannot take anything worse than a double bogey. And the key takeaway there is a birdie is 2 points. A bogey is only -1 point. So you are getting double the reward for a birdie that you are the penalty for a bogey. So there is a big emphasis, a huge emphasis in going for it. Risks and rewards. The rewards are much higher than the risks. And to emphasize the fact that we don't have those stats, because this is such a different format and golfers don't play it to their general way of playing, we just don't collect the stats for it. No approach, no strokes gained, nothing. So it'll be a little bit of a challenge, a unique challenge, but a challenge nonetheless, to figure out what we think is going to play at Tahoe Mountain Club. So with that, your top players in the field this week at the Barracuda for this calendar year, your top performers this calendar year, you have Stephan Jaeger, Mark Hubbard, Akshay Bhatia, Vincent Norman, the winner last week at the Barbasol, Sam Stevens, Nathan Kimsey, Harry Hall, Alex Levy, Masahiro Kawamura, Marcus Kinault, Louis De Jager, and so on down. You'll see several players that are starred. Those players are not in the field. For example, Nikolai Højgaard is over in Scotland playing the Open Championship. Joseph Bramlett has withdrawn. Dylan Wu has withdrawn. So any player with a star is not in the field for the Barracuda Championship. And the last that I checked, Fantasy National did not have the Barracuda DraftKings pricing, so we're still using just what's called the field view. But there's a look at our top performers this week at the Barracuda. Top performers this calendar year. Before we get any further, good evening, P. Thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Glad to see you jump in on an alternate field event, but an opportunity nonetheless to hit some win wagers, to play in some DFS contests that, while they are not as lucrative as the Open Championship for obvious reasons, still a great opportunity to add to your bankroll, especially if you're willing to do some research on these lesser known players. So thanks for jumping in chat. It's good to see you. We're going to move to Microsoft Excel, and this is the layout of Old Greenwood, Tahoe Mountain Club. This is taken from the Barracuda's tournament website. We are at a par 71, so 4 par 3s, 3 par 5s. Your par 3s, 2 from 175 to 200. We've got one long at 200 to 225 and one very long at 225 plus. But again, an emphasis on this course sits almost 6,000 square feet or 6,000 feet above sea level. So the ball is going to travel much further here. This course does not play to the 7,480 yards it says on the scorecard. So there's our 4 par 3s. We do have not one, but 2 drivable par 4s. The very short par 4 that is 0 to 350. There is another par 4 that is drivable. It's at 367, I believe, on the scorecard. And then one that is not drivable, I think is about 390. So 2 drivable par 4s. In any case, 4 short par 3s. We have 3 par 4s from 350 to 4, and the drivable one. So 4 very short par 4s, 4 par 4s that measure from 450 to 500. We do have 2 very long par 4s measuring above 520 yards. But again, sitting at such a high altitude, the ball will travel here. And then our par 5s, I will swivel out of the way for you all. 2 from 550 to 600, 1 from 600 to 650. There is a look at the scorecard from the Barracuda's tournament website. We'll go to the estimated proximity. This is from Pro Visualizer. A reminder that Pro Visualizer sets up every single par 5 as a true 3-shot hole. That is absolutely not the case here at the Barracuda at Tahoe Mountain Club. All of those par 5s, especially due to the format of the tournament being modified Stableford, all of those par 5s are going to be attacked in 2. Whether or not successfully is a different matter. But all of the par 5s are going to be attacked in 2. And not only that, the drivable par 4s, Pro Visualizer sets it up as a layup and then a wedge in. So really, all 3 of the par 5s need to come into the 200 plus. So that right there puts the 200 plus at 4 of the 14 approaches. The other 2, again, some players might not be able to drive those greens regardless of the altitude helping. They might be setting up for this wedge opportunity. But a lot of these players, I imagine, will be going for those greens in or off the tee. So I would imagine that the majority of our approaches are going to come from 200 plus at the Barracuda. We do have a few 100 to 125s, as there are 3 pretty short par 4s. We do have some lengthy par 4s as well that will mandate a few more longer approaches. But the majority of the approaches will go into the 200 plus. Again, as a reminder, Pro Visualizer sets all the par 5s up as true 3-shot holes. So a big emphasis in 200 plus proximity is how I feel about the Barracuda. There's a look at the scorecard and estimated proximity, the hole composition and estimated proximity charts that would be in Fantasy National. We just don't collect the data for the Barracuda. I will leave that up for you all, and I will come back to Fantasy National. With the altitude, I really don't see off the tee being much of a factor. It might be, and if it is, that's where I will be weak. A little bit of foreshadowing for my mixed condition model. But we know strokes gained approach is going to be a big deal, especially on those par 5s, long par 4s. Just strokes gained approach is just the most important shot type in golf. So our top strokes gained approach players this calendar year in the field at the Barracuda this week: Mark Hubbard, Kevin Roy, Akshay Bhatia, Ryan Palmer, Ches Reavie, Luis de Jager, Scott Piercy, Luke List, Stefan Jaeger, and Ryan Moore. Again, take it with a little bit of grain of salt on I think it's de Jager, it might be de Jogger. But this is all from the Barbasol, where he played very well. I believe he was a top 10 No, 16th. So a top 20, but, you know, the approach, 4.7 off the tee, 5.4. He was a ball striker last week. So it should suit him pretty well. Kevin Roy, Batia, who I've been very, very high on. Ches Reavie is actually the defending champion of the Barracuda. Wins this at a score of 44 last year. So there's our top strokes gained approach players. We also saw in the GCSA tournament fact sheet that we are on Bent and Poa Annua. And we have seen that somewhat recently on the PGA Tour. So I'll bring in those 4 golf courses. The Detroit Golf Club, host of the Rocket Mortgage. We were at Oakdale. Gosh dang it, I don't think I did the right thing there. I definitely didn't, you dummy. So Detroit, Oakdale, which was the host of the Canadian Open this past month. We in the fall, we are always at Silverado, which is the host of the Fortinet, and then TPC River Highlands, the host of the Travelers. So those 4 courses have Bent and Poa Annua as their listed surface. So with that, and I don't know why the time frame reset, that really irks me. January, we'll go all the way back to 2019 just because of the limited golf courses we're looking at. But on those, or at those 4 courses, the ones that have Bent and Poa Annua, our top putters at those courses have been Mark Hubbard, Bryce Garnett, Adam Long, Bo Hostler, Justin Lauer, MJ Duffy, Sam You'll Know, Chesson Hadley, Brian Stewart, and Peter Malnati. Now the bad thing about this is that the Euro or the DP World Tour players won't have any statistics from here or on these surfaces unless they happen to play at the Travelers or the Rocket Mortgage. More than likely they didn't. You see the just bevy of zeros there. That is going to be one facet of the rankings that'll just be missing because we don't collect the stats here at the Barracuda, and those players don't play on the PGA Tour often, if at all. So there's our top putters. Going back to 2019 on Bent and Poa Annua. Now with this modified Stableford format, you might think, and my initial thought process was to look at easy relative to par because every single one of these players is going to go for it. I'm going to tell you, with the winning scores of the editions of the Barracuda here at Tahoe Mountain Club, Old Greenwood, the tournament didn't really yield an easy finishing result. Last year, Ches Reavie is at 44 points. That would be 22 under. That is certainly very, very easy, or would be classified as easy. But you have to figure in bogeys, you have to figure in eagles. It's close. I don't want to necessarily say for certain it's going to be easy. And 44 is about right in the middle of these winning scores. It's been as high as 50. It's been as low as 38. So it's not a guarantee that it is a complete birdie fest like the Barbasol is. So that will be the second area where I might be a little bit weak. If the tournament indeed does play easy, I don't have any easy filters in my mixed condition model. Having said that, talking with it through you all, it's pretty close. Again, Reavie being at a 44 last year, that had been a 22 under if he didn't bogey any hole, if he just had all birdies and pars. So you can argue the easy, especially with the format that you're going for it. I am a little hesitant to do so, and I will accept that I could be weak in that regard. to some players and some metrics. But our top performers in the past 18 months, when a round has been easy in the field for the Barracuda: J.J. Spawn, Mark Hubbard, Ryan Palmer, Stefan Jaeger, Akshay Bhatia, Grayson Sigg, Patrick Rogers, Vincent Norman, Nick Hardy, Nathan Kimsey, and Marcus Helig-Kilday. Again, those three players that are starred are not playing in the Barracuda, so we're skipping them. And take a little bit of grain of salt for Kimsey and Helig-Kilday. Helig-Kilday's rounds are from the Barbasol, and Kimsey's are from this year's Barbasol only. So Helig-Kilday missed the cut last week and was the one recommendation that I really got incorrect last week at the Barbasol. But he has a few rounds from the Barbasol last year and this year that played easy. So anyway, there's a look at our top performers when a round has been easy in the past 18 months or so. Something else from the GCSA Tournament Fact Sheet that we can look at. This is a Jack Nicklaus design. And there are a few Jack Nicklaus designs on the PGA Tour, most notably Muirfield, the host of the Memorial. Glen Abbey used to host the Canadian Open. The Nicklaus Tournament course, which is part of the Rota for the American Express. PGA National, host of the Honda or Valspar. I always get those two mixed up. I believe it's the Honda. A difficult course. Valhalla, where the PGA Championship will be next year. Also a Jack Nicklaus design. So we can take a look at some Jack Nicklaus designs. There's not a lot of data, so I will have to go back to 2019 to have enough rounds to make it statistically significant. But our top performers on Jack Nicklaus designs going back to 2019: Justin Suh, Ryan Gerard, Keith Mitchell, Kevin Chappell, Mark Hubbard, Martin Laird, Nicholas Lindheim, Carson Young, Bryce Garnett, Harrison Endicott, and Stefan Jaeger. Again, skipping Dylan Wu and Tyler Duncan, they are not in the field at the Barracuda this week. Gerard had a very good Honda, kind of made his presence known at the Honda. A very good tournament for him. Justin Suh played well there. Keith Mitchell is a former winner at the Honda. Mark Hubbard generally plays shorter courses pretty darn well. So there's a look at our top Jack Nicklaus design players in the field this week for the Barracuda. Okay, moving forward, we're going to go into a little bit more of the data dive portion. Let me set this for 2022 and 2023. We're not going to do anything else. Again, I mentioned how I'll be weak to off the tee. I'm more so focused on approach and the putting. If you are having to rely on around the green, you're going to be lapped and not going to be in contention. You're just going to have to go for it. And the ones who are successful in their go for it approach, meaning hitting the greens and whatnot, are going to be rewarded. So I'm not going to factor anything in with around the green. So instead, let's move to birdies and bogeys. And just like the Barbasol, for different reasons, this is another tournament where I'm going to be looking at birdies or better and eagles. So let's not worry about the easy to par filter. Let's just go ahead and go just straight from this calendar year. Our top performers in birdies or better gained this calendar year have been Harry Hall, Vincent Norman, Akshay Bhatia, Keith Mitchell, Scott Piercy, Justin Suh, Marcus Kinnolt, Masahiro Kawamura, and Nathan Kimsey. Of course, you see these three who have the 4 rounds. Those are from the Barbasol last week, but they are already top 10 in terms of birdies or better gained in this field. There's our top birdies or better gained players. Eagles are definitely going to be something we want to focus on with the heavy emphasis of the go for it approach, those par 5s, The two drivable par fours. So our top Eagles gained players in the field this week for the Barracuda: Kevin Tway, Kevin Chappell, Vincent Norman, Alexander Knapp, Jonas Blixt, Ryan Brim, Masahiro Kawamura, J.C. Ritchie, Juan Ritchie, but more commonly known as J.C. Ritchie, Jason Scrivener, and Nick Hardy. A little bit of overlap here. Vincent Norman, of course, your winner again last week at the Barbasol. Kawamura, top 10 in both Birdies Are Better and Eagles from last week at the Barbasol. A little bit further down, Gerard and Sam Stevens getting some honorable mention here. They are both top 20 in both of those. Akshay Bhatia would probably deserve an honorable mention, third in Birdies Are Better, 25th in Eagles. So very good in Eagles, just not elite in this field. So there's a look at the scoring. I'm going to do everything in scoring around Birdies Are Better and Eagles. Now for the mixed condition model, I did not use the easy filter. I will go ahead and bring that in for you all if you would like to see that filter applied. So when a round has been easy, our top Birdies Are Better gained players in the field this week: Ryan Palmer, Vincent Norman, Akshay Bhatia, Peter Malnati, S.H. Kim, Justin Lauer, Patrick Rogers, Matty Schmid, Grayson Sigg, and Harry Higgs. And if we want to look at Eagles, Nick Hardy, Vincent Norman, Sam Stevens, Stephen Yeager, Cameron Champ, Eric Van Rooyen, Wesley Bryan, Marcus Helikilde, Lucas Nemec, I think is how you say that, and Sam Bennett. So again, all of my focus in the scoring for the Barracuda is in Birdies Are Better or Eagles, since you get double the reward for the birdie that you would get the penalty of a bogey. So you've got to go and get the birdies at the Barracuda. All right, moving into fairways and greens. Again, with the altitude, I think distance is not going to be the biggest of factors. Maybe only for the elite of the elite, like Cameron Champ, Brandon Matthews, etc. But everyone's going to have distance because of the altitude. Fairways, they are generally easy to hit here. These fairways are wide. So instead, I'm going to look at greens, especially since the go for it mentality. If you're able to hit the green in two on the par fives, or hit the green off the tee on these par fours, or the 200 plus procs, which we'll get to here in a second, these long irons, I want to see who hits greens. So I will keep the easy filter on just because I have it on at the moment. Our top greens in regulation gained players when a round has been easy the past 18 months: JJ Spawn, Sam Stevens, Taylor Pendrith, Vincent Norman, Cameron Champ, Martin Laird, Russell Knox, Mark Hubbard, Marcus Helikilde, and Henrik Norlander. Again, Helikilde, few rounds just from the Barbasol. If you want to look at greens just in general, greens in regulation gained in general, no easy filter, which is what I did for the mixed condition model. Your top greens in regulation gained players this calendar year: Stephen Yeager, Luke List, Trevor Cohn, Russell Knox, Keith Mitchell, Ryan Palmer, Taylor Pendrith, Louis DeJager, Alexander Levy, Akshay Bhatia, and Ches Reavie. Reavie being your defending champion. So that's all I'm going to be doing with greens. I'm not going to be looking at scrambling for much of the same reason I explained around the green. Sand saves, no. If you're having to rely on sand saves, you're just getting lapped. You could maybe argue good drives gained, but I feel much more comfortable with greens since the fairways are generally easy to hit. I just want to see who is adept at hitting greens or gaining greens on their competition. So there's the fairways and greens. Proximity is very, very easy, but we are going to look at a part of proximity tonight. It's the 200 plus. Again, with the go for it mentality that a modified Subwoofer format has, I want to see who plays the par fives extremely well, which would include 200 plus proximity. So we'll look at par fives pretty heavily, but the long par fours, all of that. I think 200 plus is the way you want to look at the Barracuda. So the top proximity players from 200 plus yards this calendar year: Augusto Nunez, Justin Suh, Charlie Hoffman, Austin Smotherman, Kevin Tway, Luke List, Ches Reavie, Austin Cook, Ryan Palmer, Johannes Veerman, and Harrison Endicott. Again, skipping Nate Lashley, he is withdrawn. So there's our top 200 plus players. Be interesting to note if any of these guys overlap with par 5 performance. Try to take a quick mental snapshot of that list of names there. But we're going to move to par 3s, and because we don't have any statistics for old Greenwood, I had to default to putting all of these at the same importance in percentage. Do they play that way? Most likely not, but I don't have the statistics to back it up. So all of these are going to be carrying the same weight in my mixed condition model. If anything, I would suggest that you might put a little bit of extra emphasis in the par 5s, especially since that gives you a great chance at eagle. But my thinking was birdies, no matter what, if they come on a par 5 or par 3, they're still 2 points, so that's why they're carrying the same amount of weight in my final mixed condition model. Our top par 3 performers in the field this week for the Barracuda: Aaron Baddeley, Justin Suh, J.J. Spawn, Alex Levy, Stefan Jaeger, Carson Young, Keith Mitchell, Mark Hubbard, Michael Lindberg, and Russell Knox. So there's our top par 3 performers. We'll move to par 4s, and there's going to be a decent argument to look at these short par 4s. So we're definitely going to do that. But first, our top par 4 performers in general, regardless of the length. Top par 4 performers this year, calendar year: Sam Bennett, Stefan Jaeger, Luke List, Nathan Kimsey. Odd to see he's 4th in par 4 performance, and he only has 4 rounds. So that's how well he played at the Barbasol. Akshay Bhatia, Mark Hubbard, Keith Mitchell, Marcus Kennelt, Alex Levy, and Louis Jaeger. Again, only 4 rounds, so they played very, very well, especially on the par 4s at the Barbasol. For the drivable par 4s, we'll look at both, but our top 0 to 350 par 4 performers: Chad Ramey, S.H. Kim, Trevor Cohn, J.J. Spawn, Saying You'll Know, Matthias Schwab, Carson Young, Joaquim Lagergren, easy enough for you to say, M.J. Duffy, Scott Piercy, and James Hahn. And then there are quite a few from 350 to 4, but these will play closer to the 0 to 350 range because of the altitude. So our top 350 to 4 par 4 performers: Vincent Norman, Cody Gribble, Harry Hall, Keith Mitchell, Justin Lauer, Luke List, Kramer Hickok, Scott Piercy, Nathan Kimsey, and J.C. Ritchie. Let's see. Keith Mitchell, probably an honorable mention. Top 10 total par 4s, top 30 and top 5 in the 2 individual lengths. Scott Piercy, worst is top 30. He deserves an honorable mention. Those are about the only 2, as, I don't know, okay. Sam Bennett, down here all the way at 1st, 29th, and 28th, probably deserves an honorable mention. Almost everyone else has either, good, say, 40s, 30s, or 2 very, very good and 1 bad, say like Cody Gribble and Harry Hall. But there's a look at the top par 4 performers. We'll move to par 5s, and I don't think either of the ranges are going to matter. Again, there's 1 par 5 that measures here, 2 that measure here. I'm just going to be looking at par 5s in general to see who can exploit the modified format. So our top par 5 performers this calendar year: Vincent Norman, Kevin Chappell, Bo Hostler, Richie Wierenski, Adam Long, Masahiro Kawamura, Ryan Palmer, Sam Stevens, J.C. Ritchie, and Ryan Gerard. I do remember Norman in 200 plus proximity, but he's about the only one I remember. So take that for what you will. But there's a look at our top par 5 performers in the field at the Barracuda this week. All right, I will bring us back to the stroke gain page view. Let's go quickly to my mixed condition model and then start making some lineups for the Barracuda. So the mixed condition model that I have made for the Barracuda this week, again, I've mentioned there are 2 things that I can see myself being a little bit weak to. One, I did not put the easy to par filter in. You can argue it as a lot of the winners would be around 21 to 22 under. That would be on the easy side, but that's also due to the format. I honestly went back and forth on it today. I decided not to be safe and to try to include a little bit of data for the DP World Tour players. But I don't blame you if you do. And then if off the tee matters any at all, I will be weak to that as I focused just on the approach. But 15% in strokes gained approach, just you got to give yourself a lot of opportunities to make putts, to get those birdies, to rack up the points. So 15% in approach, 15% in birdies or better gained, 15% in 200 plus proximity. Again, trying to attack the par 5s, the long par 4s. You got to be able to hit your long irons very, very well here to rise on the leaderboard. 10% in putting on bent and Poa annua. No green speed. If I had to guess, they would be average based on the stimp meter reading we were given in the GCSA tournament fact sheet. But just bent and Poa annua, 10%. 10% greens. And then, as I mentioned, 10% equally distributed between the 3s, 4s, and 5s. My guess is the par 5s are going to be pretty important. The par 4s usually are important. But without the data to back that up, I just decided to be safe, be conservative, and put 10% in each. If you want to perhaps try to gain an edge, I would put a little bit more emphasis in par 4s and par 5s. Lastly, 5% in eagles, as they are going to be big factors if you're able to cash in a few eagles this week, as they are 5 points. So there's a look at the mixed condition model, and hopefully I've explained what I think might be some weaknesses in it if the tournament plays a little bit differently. We'll move to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings. Hey, Gabe, thanks for jumping in chat. I appreciate that. So, everybody, hopefully you are able to see that Gabe has joined chat. Please send him a welcome hello. Gabe is the person that I keep mentioning in the intro. He writes the very good article called The Fringe. Thanks for jumping in chat. It is much, much appreciated. Do you know yet if you are having the Substack chat tomorrow by any chance? It's all right if you don't. I mentioned in the intro that it's still kind of up in the air. But welcome. I'm glad you were able to catch the show live. But we'll move to Microsoft Excel, the reveal of my rankings for the Barracuda. And you'll notice that I don't do anything with the for the course value. We don't have the stats. So I just wanted to put it all in the ranking. Normally, I have some percent owned as part of the rankings. Look, the Open Championship is this week. So even for members at Fantasy National, there weren't enough members that had looked at the Barracuda. So instead of giving you very little info, honestly, I mean, there were about maybe 20 players that had some ownership projections. I'm just going to leave it blank. I'll give you my best guess as to who I think is going to be popular. And if you decide to play Barracuda DFS, feel free to reach out to me in the comments of this show or in social media. Be more than happy to give you the projected ownerships as more and more members of Fantasy National start looking at the Barracuda. But my rankings, and again, this is only going to be from the mixed condition model that we just saw in Fantasy National. My rankings go as such. Akshay Bhatia, number 1. Mark Hubbard, number 2. Vincent Norman, Masahiro Kawamura, and Stefan Jaeger round out my top 5. Alex Levy, Louis DeJager, Marcus Kennel, Nathan Kimsey, and Kevin Roy round out my top 10. All depends on how well the kiddos manage at the game. I'll be sure to pop in whenever we get home, but don't want to make any guarantees. Absolutely. So I will make sure to make that announcement or designation tomorrow in my show. For sure, I will jump into your chat and see if there's any participation. And I guess we'll just kind of play it by ear, but for sure have fun at the baseball game tomorrow. I forget the minor league affiliate up there. I know it's the single high A affiliate of the Brewers. Is that the game that you're going to? I haven't been to our local minor league team in forever. They're generally pretty fun games. But coming back to the Barracuda, that is my top 10. Look, I don't understand why Akshay Bhatia is only at 8,900. I really don't. He played well at the Barbasol. He was one of the tournament favorites. He finishes inside the top 20. You might argue that was a little disappointing. It's all about the putter for him. But if he gives himself enough chances, look, he's number 4 in irons in this field, number 3 in birdies or better. I don't see any reason why Akshay Bhatia won't be very good at modified stable format. Mark Hubbard has played this event a few times. He's done generally pretty well. He top 5'd this event last year. He's number 1 in irons. Also the number 1 putter on this surface. So a lot of things going well for Mark Hubbard. I would expect these two players to probably be pretty popular. I would expect Vincent Norman to probably be one of the most popular players coming off of his win from the Barbasol. Of course, he's been in great form as well. Jaeger's going to be pretty popular. These DP World Tour players are going to be pretty hit and miss. I have no idea what their ownerships are going to be. They are rising very significantly thanks to the very small sample size, i.e. the Barbasol Championship, but they played very well there, and it's an easy tournament, which you would think that the Barracuda lends itself to be a bit more easy as well. So if you have strong feelings on any of these DP World Tour players, for sure, star them, consider them. They're going to rise in my rankings. They're just wild cards for me. I don't have a lot of stats on them other than what they gained at the Barbasol. Let's sort on this price board very quickly. We'll do the best I can to see who is going to be chalky, who might be a pivot, a fade, and all that. So in the 5 digits and the 10Ks for the Barracuda, we have 4 players: Keith Mitchell, Stefan Jaeger, Taylor Pendrith, and Vincent Norman. It's actually Northwoods League. Okay. Chinook's Summer League for college kids. But I know I'm familiar with the Cape Cod. I would have loved to have said that I played on the Cape Cod. I didn't. But I'm familiar with some Summer League and various leagues around the country. So cool. Awesome. Have fun with it. Let's see. Keith Mitchell, I think, will be fairly popular. The unique player in here, I think, is going to be Taylor Pendrith, basically because it seemed like he was a disappointment last week, even though he finished 6th. Jaeger is generally pretty popular, and I imagine Vincent Norman, off of his win at the Barbasol, will be pretty popular. My guess is Taylor Pendrith will be the unique option. He's probably going to be the 4th of the 4. He hasn't really gone low much. You see the birdies are better here. Par 3s also haven't been nearly as good. What you're gaining with Taylor Pendrith is greens, which are going to be pretty important. And he's very, very good at 200 plus procs, and also in the par 5s. So I think some facets of this tournament will suit Taylor Pendrith, It's all going to be a matter of if he's converting. Which you're going to be able to say that about a lot of players, but he's by far the lowest of the four, as you can see in terms of my FNGC rank. I meant to hide this column so it didn't mess with you all. In the nines, we have Mark Hubbard, Patrick Rogers, JJ Spawn, Bo Hostler, Sam Bennett, Nick Hardy, Ches Reavie, and Justin Suh. I put a win wager on one of these players in here. I'm hoping he's going to be pretty unique. I really like Justin Suh for the Barracuda this week. The irons haven't been great, but you think about his form. He has had a few top 15s rather recently. 8th in birdies or better gained, 2nd in proximity from 200 plus, which I think is going to be a pretty big deal. Now, where he's going to have to improve, he's going to have to play these par 5s much, much better. So that's going to be the downfall of Justin Suh if he doesn't play well. I really like Justin Suh this week. You see, he is 12th in FNGC rank. Others here, JJ Spawn popped on quite a few of the metrics. I don't know, like his win at the Valero, generally the Valero plays average, a little bit on the easier side, but he struggles, as you can see, with two of the more important metrics that I think are going to play well at the Barracuda. So I'm pretty off of JJ Spawn. I imagine Sam Bennett will probably be pretty popular. His introduction at the Masters, and he's played fairly well since. Mark Hubbard, probably going to be extremely popular. He is an analytic darling, generally speaking. Nick Hardy, one of your local boys, P. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about Nick Hardy. Generally when I back him, he doesn't perform well. He really only has one bad statistic. It's his par 4s, which you could argue is one of the more important ones, but everything else is pretty darn solid. Par 5s, Eagles, 10th. Top 15 in par 3s, if those matter. You know, good at approach and birdies are better gained, but he hasn't really done a whole lot since his win at the Zurich. So I'm a little bit hit and miss on Nick Hardy. If he happens to fall in my price range of people or players that I'm looking for, I don't mind going to him. But there is a little bit of scar tissue there for me, as generally when I try to back him, he doesn't perform well. Ches Reavie will probably be fairly popular as well, defending champion. The irons are very, very good, almost elite considering the quality of field. Top 10 in 200 plus procs as well. 15th in greens. And he also likes this surface. So I do think Ches Reavie will play well. He'll probably be pretty popular, though. Nick Hardy, Northbrook, Illinois, record course holder when he was like 16. I can never seem to narrow him correctly or nail him down correctly, which is frustrating because I like the player. I was really high on him last year. Moving into the 8s, look, Akshay Bhatia, I don't care if he's 40% owned. That might be a slight exaggeration, but I'm going to use a whole lot of Akshay Bhatia. Not a lot that concerns me except for the putter, and that can come and go, as we talk about on this channel often. Top 15 in greens, top 5 in par 4s. So a lot going well for Akshay Bhatia. Look, if this tournament does indeed play easy, look at Ryan Palmer. I mean, top 5 in irons, which you wouldn't think it, but he's been top 5 this calendar year in irons for this field. Birdies are better gained. He can go low when it's easy, just like Bhatia, and we'll say this about a few players. It's all about the putter. He generally doesn't putt Bent and Poa Annua the best. All it takes is, maybe even one good round, not even a good week, just a good round. And Ryan Palmer is top 10 in par 5s, which I think are going to be pretty darn important this week. So I would take a long look at Ryan Palmer. Sam Stevens I also like as well. So take a look at him, although I think I would have my suspicions he's going to be pretty popular. One player that I don't know if he'll be popular, and we've said it about 2 other guys, we might as well mention Luke List. I mean, you want to talk about ball strikers. Luke List is probably the premier ball striker. Now he's, not in the 8Ks, but premier ball striker, top 10 in irons. Gotta love Batia in an alt field. I love Batia. He was Bradley was the first wager I made this week. Granted, it's the Open Championship. Wasn't too long after him, I checked on the Barracuda and saw Akshay Bhatia at a ridiculous 40-1. And so I fired that off very quickly. I think he's dropped since then. He might be 30 or 35, but I fired him off immediately at 40-1. That was way too high in my opinion for Bhatia. But Luke List, top 10 in irons, top 15, birdies are better, destroys par fours, has plenty of length. You want to talk about the team no putt. If we're mentioning players like Ryan Palmer and Akshay Bhatia and Vincent Norman about their lack of putting, Luke List might be the captain of that team no putt. If he even has a field average week, he's generally going to be in contention. The times that he actually gains 2 or so strokes, he wins like he did at the Farmers last year. So I really like Luke List in the Barracuda this week, or at the Barracuda this week. I know I skipped a little bit in the lower 8s, but that's where I'm going. Again, I don't really care about Bhatia's ownership unless it's astronomically high, approaching 50%. I'm going to be using some Bhatia. I think Palmer could be interesting. I'm hoping he's a little bit unique. Sam Stevens will probably be popular, but I think it's a good play. The metrics don't like S.H. Kim. I don't hate it at 8,000. And he should be fairly unique, I would think. Moving into the upper 7s, I talked about Luke List. Again, if you have any strong feelings about any of these DP World Tour players, I don't know what I just did there. That was weird. Fire them up. All of these stats are from the Barbasol. They're going to rate out well because they played well at the Barbasol. I just don't have enough to go on and give you strong recommendations. So if you do have one, go for it. Let's see. Grayson Murray, I was on last week. I don't know. He's had 2 very, very good weeks in a row. I don't know if it's going to be 3. If it is, all the power to him. I think I might be off at Grayson Murray this week. Grayson Sigg, good with the irons. I would have thought he'd been better with birdies or better gained. He is generally better when it's easy, and this tournament certainly lends itself to being easy. I just didn't put it in the mixed condition model. So Grayson Sigg is somebody you probably want to think about in that regard. Carson Young is going to be extremely popular. I also think it's a very good play. He has one bad statistic, and it's atrocious. His 200-plus procs is not good, but he's good at birdies or better even when it's not easy. His irons have been okay. He's top 15 on this surface. Small sample size. He's a rookie, but he's been good on this surface. So I do like Carson Young, but do understand he is going to be pretty darn chalky in my estimation. Moving into the low 7s. Eric Van Rooyen is somebody who has played this tournament pretty well in the past. So take a long look at Eric Van Rooyen. I was all over Marcus Helig-Kilday, and I jokingly referred to him as Marcus Helig killed me last week for the Barbasol. Again, stats-wise says that he should be pretty good, but just like with these other DP World Tour players, it's all just based from the Barbasol. Marcus Kennel played extremely well last week at the Barbasol. Take that for what you will. Same with Sean Crocker. If the wind does indeed pick up, and it didn't look like it was going to for the majority of the Barracuda, but if it does, pay attention to Scott Piercy. He loves playing in the wind. He's at his best in the wind. Par 5s being extremely important. Also take a look at Ryan Gerard. I'm hoping both of these players will be somewhat unique. Hard to say. I think they'll be more unique than, say, Carson Young and honestly, probably even a Maximilian Kiefer, Sam Stevens. They'll probably be more unique than them. How much so, I don't know, because I don't like a whole lot down here. Let's see. Troy Merritt has also won this event before, the modified stable format, if you're a big believer in that. Look, the 200 plus procs is good. He's generally a good putter on bent and Poa annua, but he hasn't really done much this calendar year. The greens are awful. Par 4s and the par 5s are atrocious. I don't know if I can get there with Troy Merritt, but he at least has played this modified stable format very well in the past. Ryan Moore might be somebody to take a look at, all based on the irons. You can also argue that with Russell Knox based on the irons, but I would much prefer Ryan Moore to Russell Knox based on current form. But yeah, that's what I have for you in the lower 7s. In the 6s, this is going to be pretty bad. I generally try to give you all a few names in the 6Ks to think about. This is an alternate field event. I don't know how much I want to dabble in the 6Ks. If you're down here, again, same thing with these DP World Tour players. DeJager, however you say it, played well last week. It's at least he's in good form. Augusto Nunez might be interesting, especially with the importance of 200 plus proximity, how I see it. His irons have actually been fairly decent. He just hasn't gone low. He hasn't gotten the birdies. So perhaps in a format that forces him to go for it, if the irons stay like they have been, Augusto Nunez might be worth a look. Let's see. Matty Schmid, generally pretty good player, especially from the DP World Tour. Kind of worth a look. And if you want to believe in putting, especially on this surface, Bryce Garnett is the number 2 putter on this surface. He's also got a few stats that aren't atrocious. Irons have been okay. Of course, the putting, he's okay at hitting greens. So if the greens in regulation stay as they are with the putter on this surface like he generally does, Garnett could be useful, but man, he's got some bad statistics as well. So really only in the most dire of circumstances would I be considering Bryce Garnett, or if I'm building like a putting team. Kevin Roy is going to be very, very popular, I would imagine. Number 2 in irons, almost top 20 in birdies or better, also very good on the surface. I imagine Kevin Roy will be very, very popular. And that, I really want to use him, but it really kind of depends on what I think his ownership's going to be. So there's a look at the price board. And it's going to be pretty difficult to say, or try to build lineups that our fellow contestants are building, because we don't have any projected ownerships per Fantasy National. I'm going to do my best to build a lineup that I think is going to be pretty popular. I'm going to start it with Vincent Norman. I would have to think Akshay Bhatia would be a part of this very, very popular lineup for the Barracuda. We'll bottom this out at Kevin Roy. I imagine he's going to get some love. You got 8,000 here per player. Carson Young, I could see having a whole lot of ownership. And in the mid-8s, Sam Stevens, probably going to have some. If I put in Sam Stevens, what's that, 87? Lindheim, I'm not sure. I'll say Ryan Palmer, just because it's a name that contestants have probably heard of. Again, I have no idea what that projected ownership would be, but my guess is this is going to be a pretty darn chalky lineup for the Barracuda. So some ways that we can maneuver around this, and it's going to be hard because I love Akshay Bhatia. I'm okay with going a lot in the nines. I really feel comfortable with the nines. I mentioned Batia, Mark Hubbard, who's going to be pretty popular as well. Hopefully he's a little bit less than Vincent Norman. I think Norman might have a little bit of a hangover from the win at the Barbasol. Mark Hubbard has played this event 2 or 3 times. I know he top 5'd it last year, so I'll go with that angle for Mark Hubbard. Batia would definitely be in this, but I'm going to try and save some ownership. I can only hope, but I really like Justin Suh this week, so I'll go with Justin Suh. I'll go Luke List. And we're still at this 7,700 number. We don't even have to flirt with the 6Ks if we don't want to. I gave you a few names in the low 7s that we can think about. Eric Van Rooyen has played this event and played it fairly well. Ryan Moore at 7,000, also an option. I'm going to go to Ryan Gerard. I really think this is going to set up well for him with the emphasis on the par 5s, long iron approaches. I really like Ryan Gerard for this. We have 8,000. We can, take a chance on some Euro players. If you want to go off the form just of last week, Nathan Kimsey, your playoff participant with Vincent Norman. Maximilian Kiefer could also work. I like Grayson Sigg. This will leave a little bit of money on the table, actually quite a bit of money on the table, but I would venture to say this is closer to a unique lineup than the first one that I built for you. I think Hubbard's going to be pretty darn popular. He generally is. I'm hoping Justin Suh has a little bit of uniqueness. I don't think many players are going to like the idea of Luke List, considering you have to get birdies and a lot of that's on the putter. I'll just ride with the elite ball striking and hope he makes one putt during the week. Nathan Kimsey, this is just a pure play on the form from last week. Insert a DP World Tour player that you feel strongly with, or maybe this is Cam Champ, maybe this is Matthew Neesmith, however you feel strongly. And I do like Ryan Gerard in the lower half of the 7s. I'll make one more lineup and then I'll stick around for a couple questions. We've went over on time for a couple of minutes, but let's try to make a stars and scrubs approach, and we'll jump into the 6Ks. I don't like doing it, but if you're willing to try and get greedy, there's a few players we can come down here for. I don't think you'll be able to do it with Kevin Roy. I think he's going to be too popular to do maybe like a Taylor Pendrith, Mark Hubbard type lineup, or a Stefan Jaeger, Vincent Norman, Kevin Roy kind of boundary. I think he's going to be a little bit too popular, but we'll stick on the theme of playing well last week. Masahiro Kawamura popped on seemingly every single one of the metrics tonight when we went through Fantasy National in those top 10s. Again, this is just a play on the form from last week at 6,700. You can think of Kevin Chappell, Augusto Nunez, I mentioned, Matty Schmid. I'll just go with Kawamura, and I'm going to try to load up here. I'm not terribly confident in Taylor Pendrith, but I do think he's going to be the most unique. So I'll start with Pendrith, and then Sam Bennett, maybe. How do you feel, Pete? Do you think Nick Hardy gets a look? This would probably be Justin Suh for me, but I'm just trying to use some different names for you all. I'll throw Nick Hardy into this. Why not? We're still in the 7,200 range. Don't have to go into the 6Ks again if we don't want to. Look, 7,200. Marty Doe has been decent as of late. Adam Long, Troy Merritt, I mentioned, is a former winner of this event. Ryan Moore at 7,000. And then you can come up to 74. Trevor Cohn, who played well last week. Marcus Helig killed me. Yes, that's what I'm going to passionately name him now. Marcus Kennel, although I think he's going to be pretty popular. I'll throw Eric Van Rooyen into this because I think he's going to be a bit more unique than Marcus Kennel. I think that's a pretty unique lineup there. I don't know how many of our fellow contestants are going to be willing to drop into the 6Ks in an alternate field event. That you're probably looking at a unique lineup here. Ryan Moore in decent form as of late. Nick Hardy, it's a chance, but he's already won at some point this year. It was with Davis Riley, but he won. So that's what I have for the Barracuda. I apologize that the projected ownerships aren't there. I can't control that. Not a lot of the members at Fantasy National have checked on the Barracuda yet. But that's what I have for you. Big thanks to P and to Gabe for jumping in chat. Glad you were able to catch the show live this time. Again, highly suggest that you go give Gabe a follow over at Twitter. I will put his handle in chat for you all. There you go. Give him a follow over there. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. It's a great way to start your week of preparation, especially in big tournament weeks like majors, the players, all that. It's a very good read. And by subscribing to his article, you'll be able to join us in his Substack chat every Wednesday night for DFS talk. Again, I'll make this announcement again tomorrow. It's a little bit up in the air for tomorrow as him and his family have some plans, but on a normal Wednesday night, we'll be in there continuing the DFS talk. So thanks to you two for jumping in chat, and thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, and supports the channel. Hit 100 subscribers yesterday. Really do appreciate it. Love what I do, taking a look at sports statistics and trying to win a little money in the process. So thanks for all the support. For all of the wagers you have made this week for the Barracuda Championship, for all of the DFS contests you play this week for the Barracuda Championship, until I see you tomorrow night for the Open Championship DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.